well, one of those prominent Jewish figures that certainly could have been a speaker there, but he has expressed concern going into this convention about those street protests is Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO and National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, and he joins us from New York. And Jonathan, I know the ADL expressed concern about those protests, those street protests in Chicago. I think your Midwest director, particular, spoke out about it and concerns about how, for example, the City Hall, the municipality of Chicago would handle that. What has been your evaluation of that so far?
Well, thanks for having me today. Indeed, ADL, as the organization in America most focused in fighting anti-Semitism, is not just concerned. I mean, we are alarmed at the anti-Israel protests that are taking place outside of the United Center and across the city of Chicago. These are not, again, pro-Palestinian. They're pro-Hamas. They are pro-war. They are disruptive, and they have threatened the safety of the people there. You know, the Chicago police have made it clear they're not going to tolerate intimidation, and they won't tolerate violence. And yet in this moment, you can't ignore the intimidating tactics and the violent rhetoric of these groups. And let's be clear, we're not talking about sort of nonviolent protesters in the vein of those folks from the 1960s who marched to say, you know, desegregate our schools or to stop the Vietnam War. We're talking about people from groups like Palestine Action or Samadoun or Students for Justice in Palestine that lionize Hamas, that praise Hezbollah and the Houthis, and that literally call for the destruction of the state of Israel. So there's nothing peaceful about protesters who push for war, plain and simple.
All right. I want to read out, this was a tweet from the ADL. I believe it was earlier today. I think we have it there. We welcome the Democratic Party's platform inclusion of ADL's recommendation to combat rising anti-Semitism, support Israel, oppose BDS, fight campus anti-Semitism, protect houses of worship, improve hate crime reporting and counter online hate. ADL will continue to work with policymakers across the political spectrum. Now, the issue of Israel and its handling of the war in Gaza has become a political issue, in some ways a partisan political issue in the United States, and so has even just the issue of how to deal with anti-Semitism. And let me ask about your feelings about the Democratic Party now. There are those who charge certain elements are not on board with that platform that you've just expressed there.
Well, so a few things. So number one, we're a nonpartisan organization that doesn't claim to support either political party. We support anyone who fights prejudice, anti-Semitism, and hate. Number two, what you just read, our tweet today, was about the Democratic platform that's been approved, and we're really pleased with elements of that. But it's less about what you say and more about what you do. So we're going to be looking to see if the Democratic Party, like the Republican Party, is willing to step up and take action against those people, again, who intimidate or threaten their Jewish constituents just because of our ethnicity or our faith. That is intolerable about their constituents who, again, marginalize and threaten Jewish kids on college campuses. Unacceptable. So again, there are rogue fringe elements in both party, and the people standing outside, the people making these chants, and I saw them myself in Washington a few weeks ago when Prime Minister Netanyahu came to speak with ISIS flags and Hezbollah flags. I mean, give me a break. So I would push back on anyone from any party who supports and trumpets terror, Democrat, Republican, or anything in between.
All right. And just one last thing, looking ahead now to beyond this week, to the beginning of the new academic year in the United States, because I think that is where the major concern is going to be on the colleges, campuses, and whether school administrations are prepared to handle continuation, even intensification of what we saw during the last academic year, especially, of course, moving ahead to the presidential election in November.
Yeah, good news, bad news on that front. First, the bad news. We've seen these so-called activists, we really should call them sort of like chaos agents, holding summer intifada training camps We've read what they're posting on social, talking about, to your point, intensifying and remobilizing. It's all very troubling, but there is some good news. Yesterday, University of California released a statement making it clear no masking on campuses, no encampments on campuses, and they're taking much more drastic steps. We've seen other universities issue similar statements and new policies this summer. So if the universities simply enforce their own rules and demonstrate a zero tolerance policy on those who promote intolerance, things should be fine. But if the universities think that the way they can protect their Jewish students is by standing back and doing nothing, it's going to be a very ugly, violent fall for sure.
All right. Well, let's hope that is not to be the case, and even the next few days in Chicago will go relatively peaceful, despite some of our worst expectations.
And let's bring the hostages home now.
100%, of course.